I am well aware of what I'm addicted to, and I'm addicted to one behavior and two substances. There's no good days and bad days. There's good days and data days. For the first time in my life, I got to experience an actual break from sugar and feel what recovery feels like and feel what remission feels like. And this diet is as much, if not more, about stopping the poison that it is ingesting the nutrition.
Recently, someone reached out to me and she was like, "You have to talk to this lady. She's amazing. She's such a giving, caring person. And she transformed her life. And she's been sharing about it. And when I went and checked out her YouTube channel, I watched one or two things and I was like, you know what? Yes, we need to talk because what she's done. So, anyways, I'm not going to give you too much right now on this words. I want Emily to tell you herself. Emily, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing on and how did you get here?
Ooh, here. Um, here with Carnivore, here with you. Um,
Here with Carnivore, let's start there
let's
because
start
that's what you're
there.
doing, and I'm not sure if you went straight there. Did you have
No.
what was okay.
First of all, before we even start, can I say thank you for having me? This is such an honor. I love what you do. And before I forget, I do want to shout out Chrissy that got us connected. So thank you, Chrissy. Hi, Chrissy in Florida. Um, what a compliment to have her wanted you and I to connect here. So um, I consider myself to be an accidental sugar addict. And I used sugar, and I mean it in the sense of using a drug. I used it to get through newborn baby after newborn baby and multiple college degrees, and I used it as an upper to keep going. I didn't realize what I was doing. I didn't realize that it was addictive. But sure enough, after getting married and having children and moving 12 hours away from everyone we knew, my husband went to law school and we had two little babies in law school. And I used sugar to cope with life, but also to keep me going. And it did. It kept me going. I got a lot done in those years, but I also gained 100 pounds. Um, so did my husband. Our health was struggling all the while we were building our family and our careers. I lost 100 pounds in 2020 on what I now realize and can very clearly see was a starvation diet that had us weighing and measuring vegetables and eating two fats a day. So we got 2 tablespoons of fat a day. So I was starving. Lost 100 pounds and went from 240 to 140. And this was after I had done it all. Like, haven't we all done it all? The Weight Watchers, the counting points, the counting calories, we've done it all. But carnivore came into my life in April of 22 after I had lost that 100 pounds, but that was not sustainable. I was skin and bones and would have trouble opening the door at a gas station. And I thought, nope, this is for the birds. I have lost all the weight, and the Lord has shown me that skinny is not the goal. I want muscle, I want strength. And April of 2022, I saw a video on YouTube, a 3-minute video, Kelly Hogan talking about carnivore. And I was so literally hungry. I was spiritually hungry. I was physically hungry. I was emotionally hungry. I was physically hungry. And a ribeye sounded pretty good. And I have not looked back. So I've been carnivore for 2 years now. I actually gained 50 of the 100 back just eating, just allowing myself to eat and nourish my body, to build strength back. I was still so tangled up with the sugar. So for a year of carnivore, I only ate meat and sugar binges. And I mean horrible sugar binges. So that's where the 50 pounds came from. Don't let me scare you on carnivore. It was not carnivore to blame. It was the sugar. But since I've figured out carnivore and I've never given up, I have gotten a lot figured out. And tomorrow I'm 11 months sober off sugar. And I've completed 2 years of carnivore, and I'm just absolutely blown away by what carnivore has done in my life and in my husband's life. We started it like so many people for one reason and kept going for about 15 other reasons. So it, like a domino effect, it has solved problems that I never thought diet would solve.
Okay, I have so many questions. Let's go back a bit. You said that the original diet you were doing was just vegetables and a little bit of fat.
It was not just vegetables, but it was 32 ounces of vegetables every single day. So it was 2 pounds of vegetables and fruit. It was, you could choose basically. So it was such a break for my brain to no longer be dealing with numbers. I was thrilled. It's probably why I was able, with 5 little kids at the time, to lose 100. We now have 7, by the way. My husband and I are raising 7 kids on this farm in Western Kentucky. Hello from Kentucky. It didn't have me counting calories. It just said that for breakfast you get 1 fruit, 1 protein, 1 grain. And then it was a little menu of what those were. And the protein choices were, I could have anywhere from 4 ounces of beef to 4 ounces of chicken, 2 ounces of peanut butter, or maybe 8 ounces of coconut milk. And I was not doing the math, but I look back now and think, if I had chosen coconut milk, that's 40 calories of of sugar water. So it was it I thought it was well rounded. I thought I was hitting all the food groups like we're told we should hit. But looking back now, there just wasn't nearly enough protein or fat, and way too much rabbit food, way too much of the veggies there. No offense to veggies. If they work, they work. But I was not eating the protein. And now that I'm carnivore, I get 60 to 80% every day of my calories from fat. So I am fat fueled and have never felt better.
Okay, so you started the diet because of weight, if I understood well. How long did you do it?
I followed that diet religiously for about a year and a half, had lost 100 pounds within 8 months. Um, my husband and I both used to teach special education, so I am well versed in behavior modification, and I was able to find all sorts of ways to mitigate, if not ignore, and avoid the hunger that I was dealing with. I found little mental hacks and mental tricks and sticker charts and rewards, and I was able to manipulate my brain into starving myself down to that low weight. And that is how I accidentally ended up with a tiny little YouTube channel, because I had people stopping me, asking me, how have you lost all this weight? Oh my goodness, tell me all the details. And so I started sharing about that diet.
Okay, so you started off sharing about the original diet.
That's right. My YouTube channel started off, I might have 800 videos on my channel, and 700 are probably about that diet. I leave them all there. I leave them all there because I still have people from that diet finding me, asking me, how's it going? Where are you now? And I'm able to tell them, I'm able to shine light for them like I've seen the light. So I wanted to clear all that off my channel, but I thought I'm going to leave every bit of that because I still have people coming to me and asking me, are you still doing that? And I say, no, I'm not. Please hear me when I say, um, eat the meat, eat the meat,
So what I find really interesting about what you're saying is if we look at the amount of food that you're talking about, because you were eating breakfast, lunch, supper,
right?
large amounts of food because it was a large amount of veg, right?
14 ounces in the evening for a 14-ounce salad. Yes. It was large amounts.
But you were starving.
Starving.
So I feel like I'm glad you said that because I really feel that a lot of people, especially nutritionists and dietitians, are talking about you eat vegetables and the bulk is going to help you to feel full and it's going to help to sustain you. It was not helping you to feel full or sustaining you. It was, yeah, it was filling your stomach for a little bit, but then you were starving.
Starving to the point where I was never freed from what I'm addicted to. And I run a jail ministry, and I also am a substitute preacher here in my these local. We live in a small town here. But the jail ministry, I help a lot of women with substance abuse and mental health issues. And I am well aware of what I'm addicted to. And I'm addicted to one behavior and two substances. And of course, we can be addicted to behaviors, shopping, gambling, pornography. I'm addicted to binge eating, and I am addicted to sugar and flour. So that diet that I was on, yes, I was eating large amounts. And what I would do is strategically wait until bedtime to eat that large amount, because some people hate this. I love to go to bed like a bear with a full belly, ready to hibernate. But because it was just vegetables and there was no fat, my body was screaming for energy. I had cut out the sugar, I had cut out the flour. Um, the person that leads this diet, the whole premise is that we were dealing with our sugar addiction. Come to find out, we were not, because we were eating so much grains and so many fruits that while I was starving, I was also intermittently binge eating. I lost 100 pounds with still sporadic binge episodes, because my body, raising 5 kids on a farm, would demand calories at times. It would demand energy. And I know so many people on that particular diet that it brought their disordered eating, it brought it back out of remission and really exasperated things for them. So this way of eating, it helps me to manage my addiction to sugar, but it also is helping me manage my addiction to the behavior of binge eating. So because you can't quite binge. You still can, but you can't binge on meat quite like you can carbohydrates. So
Okay, you're touching two things that I definitely want to touch. Which the first one being this person, whoever, whatever diet this was, I'm trying my hardest to try to pick it, but I can't. But this diet that you're talking about, where they're saying it's going to help you do,
I'm obviously trying not to say the name, but
I get it, I get it. We don't want to advertise things that aren't healthy, which I totally get. But this diet that you're talking about, where the person is actively saying that this is going to help with your sugar addiction, is also actively lying to you because, fruits and grains are sugar. And they're not saying to you that that's so basically I'm just trading one source of sugar for another.
absolutely. Absolutely. Did I cut out ice cream and Snickers and Dairy Queen cakes and ices and pizza? Yes, but I still, on a daily basis, ingested um, Triscuits, Ezekiel bread, bananas, frozen bananas. I would come up with concoctions. Peanut butter, which, I mean, Jif peanut butter, turn it over. It is peanuts and sugar. It's sugar, sugar, sugar. So that I thought I was off sugar, and it wasn't until carnivore that I realized I was not off sugar until now. So
The other thing you mentioned was it helped you to solve your binge eating. One of the things that's really interesting about eating only meat, and I've heard it said, multiple different doctors talk about, Dr. Chafee especially talks about it, but I didn't know it could happen with every meat. Like I've actually had the scenario, of course, when you eat like, pork and you eat a lot of pork, you just get that moment where it's just like it's not happening. You can't put another bite in. But I've had it happen with chicken. I've had it happen with fish,
yeah,
where you're eating and your body just says stop.
stop.
And if you put another bite in, you feel like it's gonna go bad. Don't put another bite in.
Right.
And so I feel, and the funny thing, it's about a pound for me. Like
Hmm.
it's not a ridiculous amount. It's about
Right.
a pound, maybe pound and a half, depending on what I'm eating
Right.
and how much fat is on it. So I do think that eating properly solves all the things.
Right. It's such a
And it's so
relief.
lovely.
It is. There's so much. I mean, I'm taking a deep breath now. There's just so much peace in this way of eating. I will say that um, even on carnivore, we have to troubleshoot, and there are carnivores that I can listen to, and there are carnivores that I don't listen to anymore. I love what they're doing, and I respect what they're doing, and they're helping hundreds of thousands, but their style triggers me. So I have to listen to certain people. There's a couple, it's usually male carnivores that say, eat until you're comfortably stuffed. And I'm thinking, well, I'm pretty stuffed. So I was not getting into the shape and the body and the genes I wanted to get into, even on carnivore, for a while there when I was eating until I was comfortably stuffed. So I've really been seeing some success lately as I've committed to tracking, meaning counting my macros, even on carnivore, which keeps my, again, it keeps my binge eating in check. It keeps, I don't use sugar. I don't use donuts. I don't use Dairy Queen to cope with life anymore. But I could use chicken wings from Buffalo Wild Wings. I could use ribs. I could sit on my couch next to my husband and cope with life and the stress of raising kids, eating and eating and eating. So to track my food kind of keeps me in check. I have one day a week where I don't track and I eat as much as I want. But the other 6 days, even on carnivore. So yes, but you're exactly right. When you're eating meat, it is concrete. You can hear the leptin. You can hear your body tell you you've had enough, and it feels like concrete, and it has filled right up to here, and you're done. Whereas carbohydrates, it's cotton candy. You can just keep going and going and going. So
I'm wondering about, so when you talk about those channels that you've seen where they're giving you advice and eat till you're comfortably stuffed, which I acknowledge that even I've said, because I think for me, I think it's that difference between keto and satiation versus carnivore. If you eat to satiation, you're probably under eating. So it's
yeah,
finding that line between
right.
satiation and I've had enough, which I feel, yeah. So, but here's the thing that I'm wondering about is, and I'm only now learning this. Oh, by the way, so I'm 2.5 months carnivore.
Oh, okay.
So I did carnivore for 2 months years ago. And now this is my progression where I believe I'm staying with it.
Okay.
And the thing that I recognized, and maybe why the first time I didn't stick with it, was the other things that we put on our meat. So when you're spicing your meats with these flavorings, at least that was what I noticed. I'm not sure if you've noticed this, you still get pulled. And so there's something about having spices and sweetness and things even on meat. And I going back to Dr. Bickman talks about the fact that if you eat carbs beside your meat, you're allowing more everything in. If we put carbs on our meat, are we not still allowing more everything in? And I feel like that was the unlock for me when I started to think about, could it be the spices? I'm not sure where you are with that.
Well, no, I totally agree. And so I've been what I would call carnivore for 2 years. The first year was crazy. The first year was, like I said, it was carnivore mixed with sugar binges. No fruits and vegetables, but I would go stretches. I would go 100 days, or I would go a couple months, and then I would trip and fall back into the sugar. And then upon reflection, which is what I did for a living as a special ed teacher, I would look back, and I like to say, um, there's no good days and bad days. There's good days and data days. So on the days where you trip and fall, gather the data. Look back and see what was the antecedent, the ABC of behavior, the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequence. What happened right before you fell off the wagon? What, we can reflect and learn. I like to say we don't put a number on how many times a toddler gets to fall down. They fall down and they stand back up until they finally learn. So if it takes us 150 falls, so be it. Just get back up and learn from it. But during my first year of carnivore, I would notice that I could make it 30, 60, 90 days carnivore and then slip back into the sugar. And one time in particular, it was that barbecue sauce. It was the sugary barbecue sauce that I was letting myself have on my ribs from my favorite barbecue joint. So May 6th, May 7th, it's the 7th of every month that I go to Celebrate Recovery for this. I speak at Celebrate Recovery for this. I'm there with people getting off meth and heroin and sugar and cocaine and alcohol. We are all in there together. And um, May 7th will be my 1 year. it was May 6th of last year that I tripped and fell right back in all the sugar. I have a picture of it because a friend, I was texting her and she said, "Don't do it." I said, "It's too late, girl." And I had it all. I live near Mennonites. I went to a Mennonite grocery store and bought fudge, Dr. Pepper. I did it all. A donut, a fried pie. I did it all. But what's really helped me this time around is to define Kelly Hogan. She's quoting someone else, but red light, green light, yellow light foods. And what's really helped me this go around from May 6th until now is to not only abstain, but something happened on May 6th of 23, the day before I started this nice long stretch. And I I prayed about it, and I just really sensed God telling me to go beef only. And so my husband and I went beef and butter. And our goal was to make it 61 days, and we made it 7 months. So we only ate beef and we only ate butter for 7 months from May until December. And then December, with Christmas time, I started adding back in all the eggs and the chicken. But by the grace of God, I have not added back in the Dairy Queen cake. So you're exactly right. We've got to be really, really careful. So what works for me, my kind of yellow light, kind of um, they're not red light. I haven't kicked them to the curb, but I do use spices, hot sauce, mustard, mayonnaise. I will use Primal Kitchen avocado oil mayonnaise. Um, but no more, certainly nothing with any sugar in it. No barbecue sauce. Those are red light. I had to I really had to walk the line. I had to really abstain. And this is where I've found success. And I think those 7 months of only eating beef and butter, that's your viewers might have heard, that's the lion diet, where you only eat ruminant animals. Um, I think that really and truly, for the first time in my life, I got to experience an actual break from sugar and feel what recovery feels like and feel what remission feels like. And you and I have chatted a little bit about, I wonder what holds people back. And I think probably losing hope that they'll ever. I used to look at people that were off sugar and think, I bet they binge on the weekends. I just couldn't even wrap my mind around it. I thought, I bet they're not being honest. I bet they are in the sugar once a week. And we can't really imagine what we haven't experienced. And so now that I've experienced 11 months off of sugar, the cravings truly go away, like an old relationship with a boyfriend. Think of some abusive relationship. When you're tangled up and you make up, breakup, you can't imagine ever being free. But once you've been free for a period of time, you cannot imagine going back. And that's where I am now. Goodbye, sugar. Good riddance, sugar. So, but I don't let my guard down. I know this is brain science here. These are dried up neural pathways. And if I let my guard down and thought maybe I could have a little, I'd get the water flowing right back there. So it's truly one day at a time.
And the word, the maybe I could have a little, I feel like that's the a piece of the puzzle that we need to talk about because that comes from society. Like that idea that you had that says, I bet you binge on the weekend is because we've been told forever it's impossible, right? Like you go to the doctor and you try to tell them that you're doing keto or carnivore and they look like you're like, yeah, yeah, sure. Right. And they're so you, but you need to take the statin, right? Like, and they don't want to believe you that you could have made a decision to put your health first. And it's scary.
It is. It's eye opening, is what it is. It makes you realize we need to advocate for ourselves.
But it also helps you to realize how well food companies have been advocating for themselves. That they
Right.
have it not only in the doctor's minds, they have it in our minds that we could not
Oh,
possibly eat for health.
let's don't be naive. They do not have our best interest in their. That's our best interest. They will make money at the expense of our health, at the expense of our lives. So my doctor actually said when I told him I was doing this, he said to me in a matter of speaking, he said, "Well," and I love my doctor. I think I have one of the few on the planet that supports what I do. And I could tell you what he's told me about mental health, blood pressure, seizure disorders. They used to prescribe this way of eating for all of these. And now it's pharmaceutical after pharmaceutical. But when I told him I was doing this, because I have mental illness that I was diagnosed with at 19, and so I've only ever wanted to be completely responsible with that because I want to be a happy, healthy, functional mother and wife. And when I told him I was doing this, he said, "Well," and he said, "it'll solve all these problems, and it'll solve all these problems, and it'll solve all these problems." And then he said, in a matter of speaking, "I mean, if you want to do it, do it." But you could tell his demeanor was sort of like, "I don't know why you'd want to do it." And I'm thinking, you just said out of your own mouth, it's going to solve every problem I have. I just left there thinking people just can't even fathom, they cannot wrap their mind around. We have been so thoroughly and effectively brainwashed to believe that chewing and swallowing sugar and carbohydrates is so tangled up with every activity known to man. So whether it's a ball game or a bowling alley or a wedding or a baby shower or a birthday party or a funeral or a church function, there will be sugar there. You cannot go get your tires changed without seeing a little machine where you can put in a quarter and turn the knob and get a little bit of sugar. So we've just, it's really a process of untangling from every event in our life this, well, we've been trained, we've been conditioned to chew and swallow sugar all the time, everywhere.
And to the point where when we're sick and we're in the hospital, they're feeding us the stuff that's got us in the hospital in the first place.
My kids at school told me that because they are learning all of this, I do not keep them from eating sugar and flour, but we have parameters around it. I let them know that I'm highly addicted and I don't want them to become addicted. And so, in some sense, it's like teaching them how to drink gasoline without drinking too much. I realize I'm allowing them to ingest poison, but this is the world we live in. So we have parameters, but it's a constant conversation. And they come home from school and say, "Mama, do you know they won't let us have salt and pepper anymore? They won't let them have salt. They won't let them have fat. The only butter they get is margarine. They're on 2 days a week. The only option for breakfast is either a Pop-Tart or a muffin, everything you'd pull out of cellophane. There's no meat. They won't let them have, they've come home and reported multiple times about what all at school now they cannot have fat or salt. And these are things that we very much value here at my house, fat and salt. So it's backwards. We shouldn't be surprised. I say all this with a smile on my face because these are the ways of the world, and we need to be awake and aware and advocating for ourselves.
And these are our children who have growing brains that need the protein and fat, the proper protein and fat, right? Animal based. And we're feeding them the worst possible stuff that we know harms our health. There's so many study after study that we know it's harming our health.
Yeah,
I,
just
I,
follow the money. Just follow the money.
I'm not sure where our world is going to be in 100 years, but it's scary.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, because you said that you had solved some other things. Can you just walk us through some of the other things? And actually, I'm a little curious. Maybe we can do the comparison of the two diets. How were the other things on the first diet versus how did what happened with the second diet? Did anything change? Did anything improve on the first diet? Because I am fully aware that when you eat whole foods, you do better. And it sounds like they had you on whole foods in that diet.
They did. And I really and truly learned so much on that diet. I consider, and I mentioned this in the email, I consider that diet, because of the leader and the things that she proclaimed and the the messaging. I am a bit of an analyst, and I dove deep into some of the stuff and thought, something's not right here. I actually consider that to be a legitimate cult. And little did I know there are plenty of cults that are or started as weight related. I didn't know. Have you heard of this? That there's weight and diet culture. There's a whole sect of like cults that are diet related. I have friends that are they could the testimonies they have of different ones with different leaders and anyways.
So basically they're preying on your desire to be like everybody else, to be thin, and they're preying on that, and of course they take your money and they put you in a position where you're in a bad position.
100%.
Okay.
So somebody that's tired and exhausted and just wants to lose weight is often very vulnerable.
Yeah.
Um, so again, this is partly why I leave up all my videos, because I still interact with women from there. I believe the Lord has helped me lead some women out of there. Having said all that, I learned so much, and it's interesting to compare because you're right. We were on Whole Foods. And so, other than being skeletal, and I mean, when you like want to see the collarbones, I was seeing ribs. It was bad. Um, I I do think I felt better in some ways. It's a little bit hard to say in some ways, having been on the Whole Foods, but um, I probably was not. It probably wasn't until I got off of that diet and binged on sugar again, which was a whole lot of fun. Let's don't kid ourselves. Going on a bender is, if it weren't fun, nobody would do it. It was fun when I got off that diet, and that's when it probably exacerbated, excuse me, some of the problems that, looking back now, you're just making me think. I don't think during the 2 years on that diet, I dealt with, and a couple of the problems are eczema. So I've had 20 years of really, really bad eczema, multiple doctors. I did all the creams, all the steroids, all the, couldn't solve it. I don't remember it being so flared when I was doing that. So you're right. The whole foods on that diet probably were at least beneficial in some way. But I don't remember. I don't remember much. And maybe it'll jog my memory here if I just tell you. So, um, I started that diet to lose weight. I was approaching my heaviest weight again, which my heaviest weight was in the 240s. I think I was 235, and I thought I got to do something. And I started that diet, and the weight fell off. So in my mind, I solved the problem, but the binge eating was never cleared up. And anyways, like I said, I learned that skinnier was not the better. So I'm really glad I got to that point, so that I'm kind of someone that needs to experience it to learn it. And I can look back and say, no, I don't ever, that's not my goal anymore. Um, on carnivore, I like to say, and you've probably heard this phrase, I came for the vanity and I stayed for the sanity. And I mean that in the most literal sense. So I got on carnivore, yes, to lose weight, because like I said, I'd put 50 back on really quickly. Um, People were asking me on that other diet, I was losing so much weight. They were starting to ask me out of concern, like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay? I've noticed you've lost more. You're not going to lose any more, are you?" Sweet people at church, or I'd be around town, and people were very concerned. I put 50 back on very quickly, and that was all of this is very character building, because there's plenty of addictions that aren't so visible, but when your addiction is food related, other people can see it. So
So if I understand you well, you did the first diet that involved all the fruit. You lost 100. You came off the diet, had a few binges, put 50 back on, and then you start carnivore.
Well, I quit the diet, probably put 20 back on, started carnivore, but I was still tangled up with sugar. So we cannot.
You
Yeah,
add another 30 while you're trying to
yeah,
do carnivore. Okay.
yeah. So I'm eating fatty meat and sugar binges. I was probably getting 10 times the calories I need. Um, And I had to tell people, I promise carnivore is wonderful. Don't blame carnivore for all this weight you're seeing. It's the sugar, I promise. So since then, my weight's come back off, and I'm leveling right down to where I want to be. And I have so much more muscle, and the body composition is so much better. But I started carnivore. as a way to manage my addiction and my weight. I had absolutely no idea that I would get off every medication that I've been on for 23 years. I'll go ahead and jump right in here with both feet. When I was 19 years old, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I had never heard the word. I did not see that coming. I had a wonderful childhood, went off to college, fell in love, and then fell into what I had no idea what depression was until my sophomore year of college. And I was so depressed I could not read or shower or drive. And that began a journey of discovering that I had bipolar disorder. And so for 22 and a half years, I took my lithium so faithfully. And, God has blessed my husband and I both with a big, healthy, happy family, 5 kids. And last year, we very unexpectedly adopted 2 more. So, this way of eating, though, I had no idea. And I'm glad to report to you, this is not unique to me. There are stories after story, testimony after testimony of the carnivore diet solving mental health issues. Um, so I went to my doctor and I said, I don't feel like I can eat this way and still take my lithium. And he said, you absolutely cannot, or you will get lithium poisoning because lithium is a salt and sodium is a salt. And if you cut out carbohydrates, think about those last 2 syllables, hydrate. If you cut out the carbohydrates and you're not retaining water and you're not retaining electrolytes, that lithium is going to go into your system and it's going to go everywhere that salt used to go and you're going to get poisoned. But he said, Emily, if you eat this way, he said, this is the way they used to prescribe for people with mental health problems because to produce ketones is it's its own mood stabilizer. So I've been on a variety of SSRIs over the years as needed, antidepressants, but lithium is not an antidepressant. It's just a mood stabilizer, but so is ketosis. So is producing ketones. So when I eat carnivore and I'm in ketosis and I produce ketones, it does for my brain what a mood stabilizer would do. So my husband's off all of his blood pressure medication. My eczema is gone. Unless I eat sausage. Sausage does get me flared back up, but I take every day. I put an electrolyte in my water and 2 drops of Lugol's iodine. So I'm making sure to get my electrolytes and everything I need, and everything, like Dr. Chafee says often, this diet is as much, if not more, about stopping the poison that it is ingesting the nutrition. So it's twofold. You have to quit swallowing the poison and start swallowing the nutrition to see the results. So here I am, a year and a half. Now that from the moment I went beef only and I really got this carnivore thing kind of under control and got my legs with it, where I could figure out how to drive this new vehicle. Absolutely zero depression, zero anxiety. I sleep. My sleep, I cannot hardly keep my eyes open after 9 o'clock. Last night I was in bed by 7:30. The way my brain operates with this way of eating is something I could have only ever hoped for. And when I talk at Celebrate Recovery, I tell people I have a choice. I can either cut out carbohydrates or take medication. And we all know that medication is really just a shot in the dark to try and do as best as possible. It's not a guarantee. So I could not ask for a better brain function than even on my lithium for 22 years. I would still have spells of depression or anxiety that would I was just forever managing it, but it was manageable. But so this way of eating, my doctor told me this is what they used to prescribe to people, and they just don't anymore, which is really a sign of the times and arguably criminal. It's just not right. But here we are, and I'm grateful to know what I know and share what I'm sharing. And I love people like you, and I'm happy to support channels that are getting the word out.
I want to go back to something. You said you go to recovery groups. So the recovery group you're going to is for alcoholics and other drugs. But you're saying that there are people there who are also talking about their sugar addiction. And the thing that I want to point out to the wellness warriors that are listening is how amazing that is to be vocal about what you're trying to solve. I feel like part of the reason, and I don't know if you were doing this from the very beginning when the first year that you were trying to do carnivore, were you going to these groups? But I think it's very helpful to say out loud, I have a problem with this thing because it keeps you accountable.
Absolutely. And it helps you deal with reality. I'm a huge fan of dealing with reality. And so this is why I tell people there is no shame involved in this. When I hear people talk about, oh, I'm so terrible, I did this or that, I think, no, 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 no. You're not terrible. You are ill. You are addicted. Your body is physically addicted to something. The tripping and the falling is not a character flaw, it's a very real issue you have. And so I think that there are plenty of people that would prefer to think that they just have no willpower or they're just lazy. They would prefer to think all these things than they actually have a problem with, be it alcohol or sugar. So yes, I think it's very, very powerful. And without getting too preachy here, when I was in high school, I heard someone say, and this has always stuck with me, that Satan is the Lord of silence and he wants us alone, struggling by ourselves. So I say, give me a microphone. I will shout from the rooftops that I'm human. I'm in a human body. These human bodies we're in are fallible. People, there's no debate about whether or not, even some people don't believe that mental illness is real. And I think, how can you think that we could have a problem with every organ in our body, but not the main one that could, our brain is so complex and complicated. Of course it could misfire at times. So here we are, human beings. I tell people it's not easy being human beings. We're going to troubleshoot our way through this entire experience. But yes, let's don't be in denial. Let's deal with reality. And the reality is sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. So I get up there right alongside people that are struggling with things that are in some ways more destructive, but I would argue that sugar's very destructive. It's sort of a silent killer. We've normalized sickness. We when you see somebody healthy like you see somebody that's taking their health and making it a priority. We think that that's strange or odd, and that's where we are. That speaks volumes of where we are and how backwards everything has gotten. So I'm glad. I'm glad to be there at these recovery. And yes, I was there. I actually used to lead groups there for this other diet that I did without realizing what I was promoting, but it was still along the lines of helping people at least kick the candy and the soda. So
So one thing I want to know about, because you're talking about this idea that sugar is normalized, and I totally agree with you. I think that companies have done a really good job of getting us to have sugar for breakfast, lunch, and supper, and the snacks was ruining our health. And like one of the things I try to talk about is the fact that we didn't purposefully put ourselves in this position. Obviously, they knowingly fed us stuff, right? But it is our responsibility once we know about it to do the things that help us to reverse this, so to get ourselves out of an addictive state. So what I want to know about is for you, like once you started to do carnivore and you figured out that, oh no, like my addiction is back. From the time that you decided I need to solve this till when? Like how many weeks, days, months did it take you to be like, I feel solid? Because most people don't think that they're going to get there. They think that they're just going to constantly be fighting with themselves. But you seem pretty solid. How long did it take?
So I love what you said there, that this happened to us, right? And I think someday people say that we will acknowledge more publicly what has happened to us as a society, just like we did with cigarettes when it all came out that they knew what they were doing and they knew it was addictive. And it's coming out now that they know that this is addictive. They know that red meat, cholesterol, these are not the killers. It's sugar. I do think a lot of that will come out. When you say my addiction flared back up, I want you to understand that during those 2 years where I lost 100 pounds, it was flared. It was, so I had never experienced freedom like I thought I had because I'd lost the weight. I was sort of in this like strange, like I'm so confused. I've lost all the weight, but I don't feel free. I've lost all the weight, but I'm still craving sugar. I could laugh with some people listening to this because we used to give ourselves little stickers every time we had a craving, and we were we were desperately trying to manage the sugar cravings and the sugar binges, and even if it wasn't sugar, it was sugar. It was frozen bananas mixed with cereal, mixed with. We were getting high. We were scratching that itch, if you will. So by the time I quit that starvation diet, there was never um, and then I lost the 100, gained the 50. There was never in that period would I look back and say that I felt freedom like I do now. And so to answer your question, the true freedom came after the year of carnivore where I was still tangled up with sugary barbecue sauce. I remember one time at a family reunion, my husband asked me if I wanted to go ride the four-wheeler, and I was really tired. And so I went back and ate another entire plate of pork. I was carnivore, but I ate the pork so that I could drown it in sugary barbecue sauce to get that boost of energy from the sugar from the barbecue sauce so that I would have the energy to ride the four-wheeler with him. So I was still depending on sugar for energy and fuel. Um, I'm sure I was not in ketosis, even though I was eating so much meat. I would have just honestly drank the barbecue sauce out of the styrofoam cup if that were socially acceptable, but I guess I have standards. So I poured it all over pork and ate it. But when I really got solid, and I appreciate you pointing that out because I do, I feel solid. I'm not naive. Addiction is addiction. And I like to tell people while you're in the house recovering, your addiction's out in the front yard doing push ups. So we don't ever want to think we've got this made. I hear um, recovered alcoholics with they say, I'm 30 years sober, but I could drink again tomorrow if I'm not careful. So we don't, I think the moment we think we got this, we don't got this. So I got solid the minute I realized on May 6th that I was still tangled with the sugar-ish, the extras, the carbs we put on our meat, like you said. And I tell people, yes, get through the 3 days. Yes, get through the 3 weeks. But for something as pervasive as a sugar addiction, give yourself like they do any other recovery program. And every one of those is minimal 30, 60, 90 days. I had someone tell me, Emily, they had gotten off meth, and they told me, what you're doing is harder than what I did because grandma doesn't mix meth in everything. So sugar is everywhere. And if you're trying to avoid it, you've got to come up with a new way to operate. The last time I spoke at Celebrate Recovery, I talked about the importance of newness, new routes home, new gas stations, new friends, new shoes, new pillowcases, new shower curtains. You have to constantly train your brain to head in a new direction because you cannot just pull weeds. You have to plant flowers. We can get rid of behaviors, but if we don't replace them with new behaviors and new friends and new experiences, then we will be sitting there with nothing and we'll easily default back into our old ways. So I was probably solid a couple, 2, 3 months into beef and butter only when I thought, oh my goodness, I'm figuring this out. My husband and I, we laughed one night until we cried, but I was halfway laughing, halfway crying because I was like, okay, we're off carnivore. We're off the sugar. We did it just like all the carnivores said to do. But what do we do now? Like, how do we go on a date? What will it look like? How will we? And we've literally had to, it's like having your hard drive erased and you have to rebuild. You've got to learn to walk again. You've got to learn to function again. So we have had to learn and we figured it out. So we now go to a couple of our favorite steakhouses. We get most of the time they won't just sell you the meat, so we get the sides to go. We don't want to look at them. Our favorite steakhouse has spaghetti as a side, so he gets a steak, I get a steak, and we get four. He gets two, and I get two little spaghettis to take home to the kids. So we have literally had to figure out how to operate. Like we were laughing one night just till we cried because we were like, okay, let's go on a date. All right, we're going to go on a date. We're going to go on a carnivore date. and we could not for the life of us figure out how to do it. We said there's this hole out there. Nobody tells you how to do this. But I think I was finally solid once I was finally off the last little bit. And do you know what I'm finally off of, Miss Violet? If I ever have it, I probably won't have any more kids, but I want to name something Violet. I love your name. Um, a child, a grandkid, I'll insist we name a grandkid Violet. Um, do you know I recently had to look up DIY, how to make your own Tums, because Tums, I was noticing I was having 3 Tums almost every night as like dessert, as like, I don't know if I have heartburn or not, but I know I want 3 little Tums. So it's been little by little by little by little by little, handing over and handing over and handing over. Years ago, I handed over alcohol. I handed over caffeine. I've been handing it all over. And I just recently had to hand over Tums because that little bit of sugar, I just think sometimes the closest you can get to none. No, that's Kelly Hogan's My Zero Carb Life. So even Tums, I've learned that you can take baking soda and mix it with peppermint. And lo and behold, I haven't had any heartburn since, because apparently I was just wanting to have Tums as a snack. So I've had to have some integrity and let go of the last bits. I've heard people say the last 5% makes 95% of the difference. And I can attest to that. So to answer your question, probably the 3-month mark of being actually sober. So hang in there, people. Don't give up.
I love that. Like I one thing I want to say is that weight isn't the answer, which is where you started. You were like you said you started this because of weight. And it's not the answer though. Healthy body is. And like as you were learning that your healthy body was what you were actually aiming for, as you go forward, you're letting go and letting go and letting go of more things, which is exactly perfect. And pointing out that our healthy body, part of our healthy body is our healthy brain, which is why your mental health is stabilized. We don't know how much the food is messing with
Oh,
us.
oh, a monkey
It,
on our back. Yes.
it's messing with us. To your point, when we see someone and they're trying to give up, so if you're talking about someone giving up drinking, for example, and they're struggling, we don't like we would see it as obvious if you eat something with a little bit of sugar. Sorry, with a little bit. If you drink something with a little bit of alcohol, then you're still feeding your alcohol, right? We see alcoholics drinking mouthwash,
Right.
right?
Right.
But yet,
Robitussin.
yeah. But then when we are eating, the rice or the this or that, like people have a hard time understanding that you're still giving yourself that little bit of sugar that's keeping you chasing.
And I love that you just used the word rice and sugar in the same sentence, because I tell people as soon as you chew it and swallow it, your body has to deal with it. All the fun happens right here. As soon as you swallow it, your body sees any carbohydrate as sugar, period. So I was just thinking about that as I was preparing for this chat with you, that none of us would think an alcoholic was setting themselves up for success if they said, you know what, I'm going to get off the alcohol, I'm going to quit drinking liquor, but I'm going to have a couple beers. I'm going to get off the beers, but I'll still have a wine cooler. um, we do that with food, and we say, I'm going to get off the sodas and this and that, but I'll still have these few things, until we finally realize it's these few things. It's the nitty gritty. I always say, when you're cleaning out your vehicle, you open up the van door if you've got kids, and you get the soccer ball and the fast food, and you get all this. But what's really making the difference is the nitty gritty that's locking the gears. And when you can get to those things, um, that's where the rubber meets the road. And that's where I have found peace. And, I used to say God took this and he took this and he took this. He didn't take any of it. He just asked me to hand it over. And I've very begrudgingly at times said, okay, I cried when I handed over Diet Dr. Pepper years ago. I've had to hand over a few things, including, and I was listening as I was getting ready for this, listening to your last interview. Um, Speaking of addictions, I I've handed over the scale. I weigh now once every 2 weeks. And I have a very practical tip, by the way, for anybody that's struggling with that scale addiction. Get rid of the digital scale and treat yourself to a manual one, because this is dopamine. To step on a digital scale releases a little dopamine. To step on a manual one and have to move that thing, and then to think you're going to like have to recalibrate, it takes all the fun out of it. So now weighing myself is not fun. But one of my sons is doing this diet with me, and I tell him all the time, I say, honey, weigh on the scale if you want, but it's just not going to give the information. It's going to give you such flat data, because you are changing the composition of your body. I went down to my basement the other day and carried up 7 or 8 totes of books and was not winded. And I was like, what in the world? How strong have I gotten that I'm carrying books, totes of books, and I'm not out of breath? So this is fantastic. Like I said, we live around Mennonites, and I'm always like, I want to be as strong as these Mennonite women that I live next to. Um, so, but yes, yes, abstain. Just you got to cut it out. You can't. I always, when I was teaching school, I would say perfection is never the goal. 100% is never the goal. But there is an exception to that rule, and it's addiction. And if the closer you can get to zero, the better results you're going to have.
And to help us to get to zero, we have to change our mindset. And I feel like this is the hard part for most people because they're going to hear you talk, they're going to hear me talk, and we're going to talk about how much we've changed in our years of doing this. I mean, I've been keto for 6 years before I switched over to
Right.
carnivore.
Yeah.
So I have 6 years of being at this weight,
Okay.
which is cool, right? Like I was overweight before.
Yeah.
The thing that we don't think about is that I didn't stay here because of doing one thing. I had to change the way I was thinking about what is food. I've decided that first of all, I only eat meals. And I've decided that meals consist of actual food.
Oh, right.
So
It
all
seems
the
so simple.
yeah,
Yeah.
all the garbage had to go.
Yes. Yes.
And what happens when
Yeah.
the garbage goes? Your
I
body
love it.
can do what it's supposed to do.
I love it. That's wonderful. Um, I'd like to add too that when people are listening to this, people say, "Oh, that's so restrictive," and I say, "Of course it is. I restrict myself to only brushing my teeth with toothpaste. Period. That's the only thing I brush my teeth with. I restrict myself to only washing my body with soap. I restrict myself to only mowing the yard with my lawnmower. There are appropriate times to have appropriate things. And what we're learning, Violet, for the first time, I mean, this is a paradigm shift. I want you to imagine being a mom of 7, the overwhelm of a meat and 2 vegetables forever, and all of a sudden the bliss of, if you guys are hungry, there's some steak, leftover burger patties, there's a couple hot dogs, chicken, fish, if you're hungry, eat meat. So this has really simplified my life. But this is what I want your viewers to hear, anybody listening. Trust me when I say that there is more freedom in restricting ourselves to only eating nutrition than you can possibly imagine. And I have 2 analogies. We have cattle. Our cows, I hear them mooing right now out this window. If I could, I'd take you around and show you. They are so happy, and it's because of their fence, not in spite of it. They are free to roam within the boundaries that are appropriate for them. If we wanted to give them ultimate freedom, it'd be life threatening for them and other people. If we took their fence away and they had no more boundaries, that'd be devastating for them. But they are as happy as they can be. I was out there looking at them yesterday, and they're laying on the ground facing the sun, chewing their cud. And that's when you know they're happy. So the other analogy is, I love years ago, I heard someone say, you can be 400 pounds and starving. And I really had to think about that. And I was like, wow, that's really sad. Somebody can be morbidly obese and starving. And so I started thinking about that. And I thought, you know what? That's like needing a pencil and asking the city dump. Instead of taking that load of garbage that you gathered all morning, instead of taking it to the landfill, would you back up to my front door and just stick it in my front door? That's what we do when we binge. And our body has to go through that to find the pencil. But then it has the rest of it to deal with. So what does it do? It tries to help us out and store it. it thinks we're in some kind of like horrible situation. We need to store all this. And this diet has taught me, just run down to the dollar store and get a pencil. Don't binge and have the garbage dump all that into the front door the way we used to dump it all down our mouth and our chew and swallow, when our body is searching for the vitamin C and the vitamin D and the calcium and the vitamin A. Our body is searching for the pencil, and it's likely not going to get it in all of the processed garbage. So this is just a really effective way of finally learning how to cut out the poison and give ourselves the good stuff and truly fuel our bodies. And that's what it just makes me smile to think about. I used to run on stimuli. I used to operate on sugar. At one point, I had 3 little bitty kids. I was teaching school. I taught in an alternative school. So everybody in my class had been kicked out of the middle school or high school. So it was not only special ed, but it was severe behavior. I had 3 little bitty kids. I would teach during the day, and I had night class at night 2 hours away. So I would stop at a gas station and I would get 4 or 5 things. I would get an ice cream cone, a Snickers bar, a bag of chips, a soda, and then probably a beef stick so that I was being healthy. And I would ingest these things to keep me going until I could finally get home at night, 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and do it all again. I was not running on energy. For the first time in my life, I'm feeling, Dr. Chafee talks about feeling so amazing. It feels amazing to actually run on energy. And I'm not against coffee if anybody's a coffee drinker, but I even had to give that up because it was causing me adrenal issues. So the only thing I ingest is meat and water. And so I'm experiencing energy for the first time. And I'm just glad I'm in my 40s, not my 80s. My dad, he passed 5 years ago. He would have loved this, but he went to his grave, bless his heart, trying to moderate sugar, just like an alcoholic trying to moderate alcohol. You can't do it. It's kind of one of those oxymorons. So this is really good stuff.
The idea that we are restricting ourselves, I also find funny when you talk about the keto world,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many vegetables that we still eat in keto, and
Uh-huh.
yet the diet is seen as restrictive.
Right.
And I feel like this is happening more so because, well, for the normal people, they just feel intimidated by what we're doing and they can't comprehend. But again, it's a manipulation when you look at it from everyone else's standpoint, right? Like the world, if we stop investing in what the world wants us to invest in, companies are going to fall apart.
Uh-huh. They need us. They need us consuming.
And what I would love for everyone watching this video to think about is, because they need us consuming, we do have a bit of power
Uh-huh.
to only purchase things that benefit us. And that's ultimately a goal that I have, is that we stop buying garbage
I love it.
and
I've never
start
heard that before, by
buying,
the way. Garbage.
yeah, we need to start buying meat.
Yeah.
We need to start buying the healthy, well, meat, fish, eggs, the healthy things. And then for entertainment, put our money towards fun things like climbing and
Uh-huh.
skateboarding and snowboarding and all the things that we should be actually doing,
Right.
that we stop doing. As adults, we don't go out and play
Right.
because we are so much in pain
Right.
that
And
we
we think
can't
it's
go out and play.
normal. We think it's normal. Yeah, we think it's par for the course. It has become normalized.
Unfortunately, it has. And this is hopefully what our conversation is going to lead people to
Yeah.
understand,
Yeah.
because you're living on a farm, which means that you are out there doing stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're taking care of the animals, you're taking care of 7 children.
Mm-hmm.
You are active.
For your viewers listening, I remember being at my heaviest. And if I had I've got some pretty great before pictures. They're great. I used to hate them. I love them. I love them because this is a journey we're on, and I want everyone to celebrate progress. That is one thing I learned as a special education teacher. We've got to celebrate progress. I can remember being at my heaviest, and you see people that are like a gym rat, and you think, I am so far from them. I can't even relate. I don't even understand. I can't even get there. But we take steps to get anywhere we go. And I don't want anybody listening to this thinking I am neck deep and everything I shouldn't be. I'm a lost cause. I'm too far. And it's just not true because I used to tell people, they would say, "Oh, I meant to get on my treadmill yesterday and I didn't and I'm just so disappointed." And I'm thinking, hold on, time out. Let's celebrate that. You're telling me you wanted to get on your treadmill yesterday? That is progress. It's mental, like you said earlier. I think 99.9% of this is mental. There's so much psychology behind all of this. But because we go where our thoughts lead us. We really do. And I just want people celebrating progress. Like I will have friends that will beat themselves up for overdoing it on meat, and I think, hold on, time out. A year ago, we were both, well, we've just come so far. We've learned so much. Maya Angelou, I like the quote, when you knew better, you did better. So let's keep learning, but let's take what we learn and put it into action. Let's actually apply some of it to our lives. And um, again, are we going to fall down? Every day. And that's what I love telling these girls in the jail. Um, let's keep going, knowing it's not going to be perfect. I love the quote, God doesn't expect perfection, but he does expect direction. Let's just head in the right direction. Let's do it together. Let's link arms so that we have the support. We need each other. But if we're just headed in the right direction, and even if your actions throughout the day look a lot like they did yesterday, if your mind is changing and you're even becoming increasingly aware, or where you habit stack. I wake up every day, and for the month of April, I've committed to making my bed. It's right here in front of me. I make my bed, and then immediately afterwards, I read the Bible for 5 minutes, and immediately afterwards, I drink my water with my electrolytes. If you wake up every day and just say, for this next week, I'm going to wake up every day, and I don't know if I'm going to go for a walk, but I'm going to put my shoes on. Take any goal and break it down into small pieces, and then take those small pieces and break them down into even smaller pieces, and take those and break them down even smaller, and celebrate when you even just have a thought of doing something different. Do what you always did, get what you always got. We have to do different, and we have to be willing to open our minds up and say, have they? Have they been lying to us? Have we been lied to? And the answer is yes. It's a resounding yes for decades now.
And the best part though is that we think it's going to be hard. And one thing that I will say is that when I started keto, before that, I had been like doing little activities with my daughter because I have a 9-year-old at the time. I had a 9-year-old, so I was doing little activities, and I was fine, right? So I did my activities, and then we moved forward, and I'd be in pain for days afterwards, right? Before I started keto, I start keto because that was my reason for starting it. I had joint pain,
Okay.
solved my joint pain in
Wow.
like months. No more joint pain.
Mm.
Now I'm doing activities with her and no pain. And guess what happened? I want to do more activities.
Right.
Well, fast forward to 2 months and a bit ago, I started to do carnivore. Guess what happened? I'm waking up earlier.
Right.
And so what do I do at that time? I have this rebounder in the corner I never have time to jump on. I'm waking up and jumping on my rebounder every morning now.
Can I turn this around and show you my rebounder in the corner?
You have a
You're,
rebounder?
it's and I emailed the people the other day and said, "Can I return this? Because I'm not using it." And they said no, and I was like, "Okay." And a friend of mine was like, "Don't return it. They're great." If I turn this around, just trust me. There's a rebounder in that corner, so you've inspired me. But that's exactly right. I heard myself tell a friend the other day. She said when we started kind of getting people use the word control like it's a bad word. We better be in control. We don't want to be controlling, but if you're driving a vehicle, you better be in control, and we are driving these bodies we're in. We need to be in control. And so as we've gained more control with more knowledge and more understanding and what we personally need, some people don't need to track. I do. Some people don't gain on carnivore. I can overeat anything I'm eating. But as we started getting going on this, I said to my friend Jill, "Hey Jill," I said, "Oh, this is really going to be fun when we start seeing results." And I was like, "Wait a minute. we are seeing results. My bed is made, my shoes are tied, my laundry is going. These are results. So you having more fun. We're supposed to be out there playing. I like to, some people have asked me before, where can we find you? Well, I hope in the backyard playing with my kids. That's where I hope you can find me, because I mean, most of us need to eat more meat and stare at screens less, and go have fun and play, and be as active as we can for as long as we can. So I love that you have a 9-year-old daughter. I do too. I might take her roller skating.
Well, she's not 9 anymore, but, like, I'm thinking back when she was 9, which was before I started keto, and then, like, but all the things, right? Like, I'm just looking at all the different things that have changed, have improved over the time, and it's like, as as we do better, our body does better, and then we do better, and our body does better, and I feel like that's the thing that we don't realize is that going back to the most important thing that people need to change is their mindset, because you don't get healthy and then it's over. You need to change the way you're looking at what you're doing every day. The food matters every day. And so this conversation again is helping people to see that you're a year in and you're still eating this way because the food matters every day.
Yeah, what you're describing is a positive feedback loop where A causes B and B causes A and A causes B and B causes A. I feel better, so I eat this way. And by the way, the same is true, a negative feedback loop. The food, the carbs, the garbage makes me feel bad, so I eat it. It makes me feel better, so then I feel worse and I eat it. It's a negative. We're either spinning in or out of control. And when you say mindset, I just want to point out that number one, if we're not changing, we're dying. So we are in a season of life right now that we will not be in tomorrow, the next week, a month from now, hormonally, women, menopause, men, aging, all of it. So we have to always be willing to change. There is no end game here. There is no ultimate goal here. It's forever growing and changing. And what you're saying is that the longer you do this, it has such a ripple effect on every area of your life. And one thing we can do starting right this minute is zoom out a little bit and reflect on how far we've come and the fact that good things are happening and they are changing. And when I meet with these women once a week, we talk about how is it with your soul? What season of life are you in? And what I like to point out to them is that what they're struggling with now is not what they were telling me they were struggling with 3 months ago. So what struggling is a good thing, by the way. It gives you something to reach for, something to strive for. When we're struggling, it's why people go to the gym, to purposely struggle. So struggling is not bad. If you're struggling, congratulations, because you're getting stronger. But what we're struggling with changes and it evolves. And I tell these women that are struggling with, um, these very serious things, let's work through them sort of one at a time. And a year from now, you'll still be struggling, but you'll be struggling with things that are just so much less, and you'll be so much further and so much stronger. So I just want people to be grateful and aware and appreciative of the progress that's constantly being made, even just one little YouTube video at a time, just just one little bit of information, sending your brain in a better, healthier direction.
It's also important for women to focus on the right thing. I think for the longest while we've been told that we don't need as much protein because we are, we don't need to, we're not going to be in the gym and we're not working out and we don't do as much as men. But the flip side of the coin is because we don't eat as much protein, we don't do as much as men because we don't work out. Like it's again, that feedback loop you're talking about. And I wish that we could put down these stereotypic ideas of this small, dainty lady and like realize that all bodies want to be strong and healthy. And the only way to do that is to eat the appropriate amount of protein. I only recently learned about, I'd say back in August, I learned I was under eating protein. With all of what I learned over the last 5.5 years before that, I only realized in August last year that I was under eating protein. How crazy is that? Right. But
Well, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. You on your journey, and I definitely consider you an expert on this, it's amazing to think, and I tell my friend Jill often, we say, wow, we've learned so much this year. We will still be saying that next year and then the year after and the year after. There's more and more and more to learn. I love what you said, a self-fulfilling prophecy, where we think women should eat this way, so they do, and then they are weak. Okay, no, that's silly. That's for the birds. My husband and I, we are a team, and we crack up because on our first date, I did 25 years ago, I did it. I ate a salad on our first date. He made me laugh so hard I spit salad across the table on our first date, and he said, "Oh, I this is so cool. I feel like I'm dating a salad shooter." Anyways, now he and I are at restaurants, and I've got this ribeye, and I'm looking left and right like, is this appropriate for me to chew on the bone? So I do eat like a lady. I eat like a strong, hardworking lady. I want my body to be functional. I want to be strong for my kids. I want to be a good example for my daughters. I don't want them to be scared to eat. I want them to know what to eat. And we don't use sugar for fuel. We use it for fun. So I tell them, if you're hungry, eat meat. If you want to have an ice cream cone for the fun of it, you can have one, but don't eat it when you're hungry. Don't drink soda when you're thirsty. When your body is in need, give it what it needs, and it does not need sugar. So
That's perfect. I think that's a great place to close this up, actually, that we give our body what it actually needs. You feed food when you're hungry. That's what it's supposed to be. And of course, we're going to grow strong. I'm so happy that I'm able to have this conversation with you. I think you helped Wellness Warriors to see a lot of things. And I believe you have a YouTube channel. Where can they find you?
I have a teeny tiny little channel, and it's just my name, Emily Myers. I'm over there. We have a lot of fun. I'm going to start tomorrow, Miss Violet, on my first Dr. Boz sardine fast. 3 days of nothing but sardines. Um,
Oh, oh, wait, you can't just drop a bomb like that and be like, what is that about?
oh my gosh, I'll send it to you. I made a little playlist. I know, yeah, you're right. That's another conversation. We should talk after I do it. We'll see how it goes. So on my YouTube channel, I might put out a little video. My videos are not nice and fancy like yours. I might put out a little video and say, hey, I'm going to do this fast. Does anybody want to do it with me? So there's just a couple of us over there, but feel free to stop by. It's just Emily Myers.
Wellness Warriors, I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Emily. Thank you very much, Emily. And you can click on the video that's right there to start keto or carnivore, whatever you prefer. Talk to you guys next week.